Okay. Welcome, everyone. This is Sandra Alexei, and I'm so excited to have my dear friend, who we've reunited after years, Darlene. And we've got a special subject we're going to talk about today, which I think is very relevant given that we have Venus retrograde, we have the eclipse going on, and we have a series of eclipses. So without further ado, Darlene, can you go ahead? And thank you so much for deciding you would do this.
Oh, absolutely. I'm really excited to be here with you and the audience that's joining, because when you and I have conversations, they're always deep and profound and meaningful. So I'm glad we're recording something of value. And I don't know, I mean, if you want to know a quick little synopsis of me, I'm in the 6th level of life, which means I'm 60 plus. I have been in media almost my entire life, and it's been in the realm of health and wellness, entertainment, technology, back to health and wellness now with the hemp world. So, so I've kind of well-rounded it so I could communicate, because I'm a Gemini, to the world, and now doing something that I feel is really significant, which is the hemp world.
Perfect.
Yes.
Okay. And so if you can tell us today, we're going to kind of talk about you as a female, your feminine energy and that type of thing, and your relationships, like relationship, where are you, you have children, that type of thing, and
Right.
how you went into a relationship, and I guess what relationship means. And I think it's really funny that Game Changer is all about relationships, the relationship book, the new model of relationships. And I think you have something with Game Changer too, do you not?
I do. My ebook is actually Hemp, the American Game Changer. Yes.
Exactly. Okay,
Yes. I wrote
perfect.
that about, I don't know, 4 years ago. And yes. And as you're saying, life to me is relationships. And relationships to me are the art of communication and really accepting each other for uniquely and divinely different. And we don't have to agree, but we can honor each other's souls. So it's it all comes down to, can I honor your soul and therefore let you be different from me, which is a long learning process, Sandra. I think you might realize this, of really learning to who we are and to love and accept who we are, with our flaws, without our flaws. Nobody's better, nobody's worse. But I think when we accept ourselves and our flaws and we love ourselves, it's easy then. It just, and I took a long time between my divorce and then even getting back into a really one-on-one live-in relationship. It took 15 years, because I really need to know me and be solo and get so comfortable with me that I never need someone. I want them to be the icing on my cake and me them.
Right.
The needing thing becomes this codependent, and they have to be the way that you, and vice versa. It's like, oh, yeah, no, that's so old paradigm. It doesn't work anymore.
Right. And so how did you, what did you do in that time? Darlene? It was like knowing yourself and preparing yourself and getting in touch with yourself. What were some of the steps you did? First and foremost, from a career point of view and a financial point of view, you've always been very strong in that way as a female. Is this true?
Well, always is a really long time. What happened was, I actually grew up in a very dysfunctional family.
Okay.
And so I feel like the first part of your life is where you get whatever you got, right? And
Okay.
then you get out of that and you're old enough, 18, say, I was 16, but 18, make decisions on your own. And then you start making decisions, and you usually go along with the world, right? And then by the time you're 20 something, you're like, oh, that's not working, because I'm really unhappy. I have no clue who I am. I don't know anything. And that's where I clearly, people used to say, go, if you've got challenges, go talk to a psychologist. I actually chose workshops, right? So when you're in a workshop of 100 people or 30 people, and you see them on the surface, and by the time you're done, you're like, oh my God, that's like a whole person with all this background, and your heart goes out and you learn things. So I learned a lot about myself through other people.
Perfect. Yeah.
And Sandra, I think I've always known myself as a spirit having a human experience. I think as long as I can remember, I was always like, yeah, okay, well, that's that, and I'm going over here now because, there's whatever. I'll
Right.
deal with. I mean, I don't need to think about what isn't working all the time. It's like I will think about it when I'm there, or take a time to think about it, but then I can let go of it and walk away. So these things I learned in workshops, and then from there, a lot of course, amazing reading, and Deepak and Eckhart Tolle and Esther Hicks, and when I hear these things, it's like listening to reading Aristotle or Plato. It's like confirmations of who we are. It's not like I'm learning. It's like, oh yeah, oh God, somebody's saying what I feel, right? And I think that if a lot of people would get past this self-help thing and just realize it's really internal confirmation of ourself in the bigger picture. I was saying to someone the other day that I did at least read the Bible one full time, more than that, but one full time. And in one of it says, in my house there are many, or in my mansions there are many rooms, right? There are many rooms in the mansion. And from that I got, in life there are many realities. There are many realities going on. You got porn, you got sports, you got all these different realities. It's like, pick the one you want and let everybody do their thing, unless it's a confrontation.
Right.
And then, like Stuart Wilde really would say, he would just kind of do the moonwalk backwards. He's like, yeah, it's not my fight. Like the Buddha says, I'm not going to fight you. If we disagree, it's okay. But if we have to fight about it, I don't need to fight. I'm not trying to prove you can think differently than me. It's okay. It's okay to think different.
Love it.
Right, isn't it? And in relationship, that's really important with our children, with our spouses, with our friends. I mean, I suddenly come across dear spiritual friends that maybe they want to vote for a president that I'm like, oh my God. And there are people that will be deal breakers for. And for me, I'm like, well, so why? Because I want to know. I honor your soul enough to think you're not stupid because you're making that decision.
Right.
Why? Have conversations. Again, communicating is at the top of the list, and then listening. Listening. That's huge, because most people don't hear what other people say. They just don't. They're so stuck on being right that they won't even hear you. It's like, let's just listen, and then respond. From what we heard. Maybe you'll change my mind. I don't know. I mean, tell me your truth.
Yeah, I think that's really important, because years ago I used to actually teach listening skills.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting, we don't think that it's important, but listening is an active skill.
Mm-hmm.
I know one time when I was doing a workshop, actually it was a workshop for realtors, so we're some pretty high-powered people, that in actuality, communication is the name of their game, darling. Okay. And so I just did a simple little exercise, said, okay, you got 2 minutes. I put the timer on. So I put them together and I said, you have to find out the person's name and just where they're from, and then share it. Okay. It was really simple. No philosophical, spiritual thing. Okay. And so it was really funny. So I did that, and they did very good. And then I said, I want you to look ahead, not look at the person you just worked with, and I want you to tell me what color their eyes are. Do you know that not one person could? Because to me, when we communicate, when we do that dance of communication, it's like a dance, especially with the Mars and Venus, if we're talking male, and which could be daughter, worker, intimate partner, whatever. It's to stop and pause and to give them that space. But it's to see in them, seek first to understand. And of course, because I'm very passionate and intense, I have to take the person in. I have to look at their eyes. I mean, I'm not going to go like this, but it's
to a Biden
thing. It's just to take in their eyes and to take in that feeling and that type of thing. And so for you, because you're all about communication, basically that's what it is.
Well, I think life, we're all having this life together. We're kind of almost making it up as we go along. And so it's not easy for anyone, and everyone has their points of view from their past experiences. And so I think it's really, and it takes a long time to get to that level of life that everybody matters, and then, however, a lot of people give so much to that everybody matters, that they don't matter anymore. And so, when you tell us, like, self first, oh, that's selfish, it's like, it's so not selfish, because when we can really be there and know ourselves, know thyself,
Right.
I swear to God, it just makes it so much easier to hold space for someone else, because you don't have to prove anything. You already know. When we know ourselves, we actually know we're connected, like, in the cosmic sea of consciousness, to everything and everyone. So therefore, I know myself, and I know you as a breathing
Right.
expression of life. And what's that all about? Again, I want to know that, and I want to know, even if it's the radical or the angry person or whatever. It's like, where does that come from? I just want to understand, because we feel for each other. But you
Right.
only get that when you can know that you're worthy, and like, I am this eternal life, and therefore, I'm having a that's how we are having an eternal life, and we are having a life right now. This is one of them,
Right.
right? How are we going to show up? And so we got to take a little time to figure out who the hell we are, to be in the world. And I think people reach into, like, physical relationships, or because they need somebody.
Right.
They need to feel love. They need to be validated that they're lovable. It's like, first you're lovable, and then you love and be loving, and then But I mean, I think we have to feel everything for ourselves first, because
Okay.
then we don't need it.
Yeah, and I think that's really important at this specific time, because I think we're hungry and we're not fulfilled within. So there's the hungry eyes. It's like, we're going to eat, we're going to drink, we're going to have massive
Mhm.
relationships, we're going to buy, we're going to do this, we're going to do this.
For the void.
What's happened is the planetary cycles have said it's stopping. It's stopping now. And we have to radically stop you if you haven't learned the lesson. And so we're going through that. So it's a recalibration. And so if people can't, all I want to do is I want to share. It's not just what I have lived or think. I want to be able to share and have for you can tell us, you've lived it, you're working it. So now, one of the things you're in a relationship now then.
I am, first time after 15 years that I have been in relationships with men that lived out of town for 15 years. I never dated someone that lived in my town, and now I'm living with someone.
Oh my God. And so how is that for you? Now, that, if you don't mind, this is what I would like, because one of the things I know is I was single for 25 years.
Right.
I always set up long distance relationships, because then I was like safe. I could still live my own life. I had never lived with anyone.
Exactly.
And so then you come to the point. And so, how was it for you when you kind of got into the relationship and started living with him? And it was like, wow.
Yeah, yeah, and it kind of happened suddenly. I actually met him on a line. I had never been on a dating site, but I knew when I turned 65 that, maybe I wanted to try something different after 15 years. I was like, maybe I'll try this and see, because I'd like to love, I'd really like to love, and I'm confident enough in myself that I won't give myself over to a relationship. It's not like, oh, no, I'm all about you and whatever you're doing, which I have done. I married entertainers. I was always diving in and became what they wanted, and I would lose me in the relationship. So I felt strong enough. So we met, and with him, and I met actually several really very eligible, wonderful men.
Right.
And I was really particular. It's like, it's not about your money, because you could own all this stuff and you're really attached to it. So that's scary for me, because it takes unnecessary time to worry about your stuff. So I wanted him to be financially secure, but not so much stuff that he was too attached to all of his stuff to show up in life, be present. Um, and I wanted someone, of course, that was healthy and knew how to eat healthy. So I had a list. Let's just say
Right.
I had a list of them. And they had to have a grip on life. So, they kind of got it. And they had to be spiritual. They just had to. They couldn't be, I'm sorry, I love the Christians, I love it, but they had to be spiritually evolved enough because I am. And so I believe in relationship, partnership. We can, once we are loved, we know that we can love anybody. So it's easy to love, right? But to live with someone and to spend your life with someone, I believe it's about lifestyle. It's like you really have to be on the same page and like a lot of the different things. And he did. So as soon as I met this man, he's a poet and he's a nutritionist and he does qigong and he meditates every day. And a lot of and he's very financially secure, right? And he's retired. So all of that was good. And as soon as I met him and we sat out by the water and I kind of leaned into him, his energy was just like, oh, I could just sink in this, which was really good. And he's a Sag, so we're opposite signs, right?
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect opposites. And he hadn't lived with anyone for quite a while. So when we came into it, we had only dated maybe 3 months, but I was moving into a house and I was either going to move with him or move somewhere else. So I chose to move in with him. And Sandra, I set up right away that I had to have my own room, right? That I am not, like just jumping in. I feel like, and I set up lots of criteria because again, people can love and they can dive into intimacy, and that can really take over to where the communication can get lost because you can get so lost over here. So it's like intimacy is good, great. We're not going to focus on that's not going to be all the time. Not going to be all the time because I want to have a relationship. I want to journey the next part of my life with my friend. Like we're happy that we found each other and that we're moving forward. And so it's like we're going to try 3 months was my first thing. 3 months, 6 months. We just celebrated a year, and we talked nothing about our future. There's no idea of future commitment. My thing is, if our nows are good, things are good. It's like we're creating a good past. We create a good future because eventually maybe that'll come up. I'm not in any hurry. I feel like this man and I are as committed to each other as we could possibly be. And we don't need to talk about how committed we're going to be in the future. Do we need to get married? Do we need to move somewhere else? Even when he talks about, well, maybe we need to, maybe we can move to a different house. I'm like, this first year, we don't even know each other. I mean, we both, got 60 years behind us. We don't know who we are. I don't know who he is really. So it's like we have levels of ourselves, right? We show this first level, it's all good. And I think the all good is again in communication. He's really good about talking about, wow, when you said that, it made me feel this way. And then that gives me the opportunity to go, oh, no. Like I didn't mean that at all. So that communication is really important. And again, in relationship, in life, in any relationship, it's so important to be here now with them,
Right.
and to even when you go through the disagreements, we do it. We're blessed. We tell each other, I must have really good karma, because to have somebody that if you are different, you speak your difference, and then you pull, and then it's kind of like we pull it apart and we let it rest with ourself, right?
Right.
And then come back in, and when we talk about it again, it's like you give space to the situation. And the same thing with children, it's like nothing has to be settled right away. If there's a confrontation, you give space, and speaking our truth, but not attacking that their truth is wrong, because that's usually what people do. It's like, well, you're wrong. Well, really, according to who exactly? So, I'm saying it's the communication and the space in communication is what makes, and speaking our truth,
Right.
even when it's different than the other person, that's not always easy.
No, and I think emotional honesty is one of the hardest things because people don't want to hurt anybody. And my feeling is you hurt somebody when you're not emotionally honest. Okay, a lot of things. And the next thing I'm hearing from you, I like the idea about like the 6 months, the 3 months, or whatever, because of course naturally I'm a Capricorn, so I'm going to take it to the business of life.
Yeah.
Is that it's like a performance evaluation where we can work with each other. And so it's like, this is what's really good, and maybe we could look at this kind of thing. On the other hand, you also set up some really good criteria for what you needed and what you would expect. And you didn't get lost in, when you first meet, with the dopamine and the emotional stuff and whatever. You still retained your whole being, your spiritual being, and allowed it to move. And I find that really, really fascinating, because I think, or I can only see, I know when I say I think, or I say I know. When I think, I'm still thinking about it. When I say I know, I know. And at this point, I know that your communication skills and your wisdom, you're getting to know yourself as a spiritual person. I find that you're very grounded. And I think he would be very grounded. And my own personal experience is that there is a lot of spiritual people that call themselves spiritual, but they wander. They're not really grounded, so they can't bring it in. Like for me, it's like I see a body as an 8. Okay, I see the top because it's a sign of infinity. So I see the top as the spiritual for you and for him. I've never seen him, never know what he's like, but I see the top of him as the spiritual. And I see the bottom part of the 8 where you draw it down. And so you actually draw the intuition, the spirituality, and the knowing into the physical plane and can manifest it in your life.
Right. Right. Well, what I want to add to this, in setting up this criteria in the beginning, our biggest criteria is, please be who you are. Please.
Right.
Please don't go along with me because you're just going along with me, nor I with you. It's like we can be kind to each other, again, in our differences, but the most important thing is, he likes to play music, I like to play music, he likes to write, I like to write. But sometimes we can, we'll stop each other and go, I really, like, I'm missing that, I'm not doing that, I love being with you, but I'm not doing what I really, other things that make my heart sing. Like today, it was like, I'm going somewhere, please, like go play, go, So it's like we encourage, because if we become our authentic self, it's ever changing. We're not just the same person all the time. And when we're with someone, it's so nice, because after a while, if you're with the same exact person all the time, it can get boring. And people hold us in a space like, well, you weren't like that before. Well, yeah, I am now, because I'm growing, we're evolving. If we're not evolving, we're kind of stagnant, so in relationship, it's so nice that him and I really encourage, even if it's completely different and contrary to the other, it's like, please do not. Because if it comes a time that we are so authentically who we are, and honoring the relationship as much as possible, it's like you honor the other, but you can't not honor yourself first. Right? Because then you put this block, and then you start resenting, right? So if in fact you go apart, it was like, this has been amazing. I'm growing this way now, and we have that understanding. It's to be, and he has been, a businessman and all these things, and wives that always kind of, he contained who he was enough that he just drank himself to be the other part of him. Well, he doesn't drink at all now, and and I am encouraging him to just be whoever you are. You don't have to go along. And I think it's for a healthy individual, we all want to really be who we are, and not just be copacetic with the relationship or the society. That's why even, it's like, I used to blow dry my hair my whole life. And when I started wearing it curly, I'm like, well, I don't know exactly what to do with it, but it's more me than blow drying my hair straight, So I think, again, the more authentic we become, we feel good about it. It's always startling to the world, but it's okay. The kids have it. The younger people have it, you know.
It can just be another important thing is from a maturity point of view and an age point of view. It's really interesting because I'm in the 7 digits, and so people say to me, you know,
Seventh level.
pardon me, you shouldn't be going out with this COVID. You shouldn't do that. You need to do this. And you know what I say to them? What you need to do is look in the mirror and talk to yourself, because you know what? I will be a very vibrant spirit that is going to be giving to humanity and working back and forth. And the interesting thing, Darlene, is one of my first astrology teachers, okay, and I've done it for 50 years. I had a session with her last year. She is 96 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Own home. She
Mm-hmm.
still does readings. She just wrote her 4th book, lives by herself because her partner passed away, and she had a marvelous relationship. Okay. And she even does guest speaking at conferences.
Nice.
And so for me, when we put age, it becomes a number and we lock ourselves into it.
Right.
I see a lot of people, they say, you know, because I say, when I finished teaching at 65, and I've taught in many different school boards, and then I move and I go travel and do my stuff and other stuff. I say I go on a walkabout. I never said I was retired. I call myself semi-retired. Yeah. Open to life. It's kind of, I've recalibrated or whatever. So I think what you've done is, I think you've shared a lot. It's really opened my mind. I love the way you express yourself and the clarity of it, and how you've lived it and how you're experiencing it, and how honest you are. Okay. And really honest. And this is my criteria. And there is going to be like an evaluation in that, because that's the real part. And how, yes, you're a spiritual being, but it wasn't that you just kept looking at the spiritual thing in this light, saying, oh, you know, my crown chakra's open, or I've worked with this, or I've worked with this. It's just, it's real life daily experience. Because for me, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood and carry water. It's just about integrating that into your daily life.
Yeah.
Being more aware. You're very wise, you're very mindful, you're very articulate, you're very spiritual, you're very down to earth. It's like you're
anybody could get this way, though. Anyone can be all of those things. It's just a matter of wanting and knowing that there's more to life than what life has been presented to us, you know. And then you go on the quest. I mean, the quest of, you know, plant medicine is do that. That'll open you up. But I wanted to say something else about relationships that was kind of really cool, because I went through after my divorce, which was when I was 50, right? So I decided to just, again, not be in relationship, but try a lot of, and again, I kept falling in love, right? And so and getting hurt. So then my son said, he goes, Mom, if you're hurt that deeply, you need to fall in love with yourself. Like, don't date. Don't want anybody.
I love
just
that.
Spend time with yourself. What do I want? What do I want? And if you don't know what you want, figure it out. Because when you fall in love with you, you won't need anyone else again to fall. Then it'll be something that you want, and you come at it differently. You won't need them in a relationship. You're good. I'm good. Like, I'm complete. I'm good. I know who I am. I love who I am. And therefore, if somebody, you know, it takes on a different thing. Because now what I used to think was condescending, because men can be condescending just by nature, just by not, they're just like, they don't really think real clearly what they're doing sometimes. And they're used to talking to their guy friends a lot. And guy friends' best thing to do with each other is be condescending, right? So when man comes to woman and he's condescending, I used to be so offended. I'm like, I remember this one guy, he's like, do you even know what you're looking for? And I was like, well, what kind of an idiot do you think I am? I got so upset. But
Right.
then it was like he was kidding with me. So now that I got really grounded, I realize that, whatever they say, I don't take it personally. I guess that's what it is. You don't take things, because people offend other people unintentionally or even intentionally, but we don't have to take it on. I usually don't. I laugh when people get mad at me about things. If I like rock their boat and then they're like, oh, you're this and that, I just smile at them. I'm like, okay. I
Oh
guess I pushed,
my God.
guess I pushed a button. You want to talk about it? I'm not mad at you. Let's talk, right? So yeah, so that whole, again, relationships, because that's what this is about today. I would say that the most important thing anyone needs to know is fall in love with you. Take that time. If you are not in, and if you're not in a relationship, definitely take the time to enjoy yourself as a solo person so much that you won't need somebody else. And because when they come in, you'll honor them. You'll honor that they're there, and they'll honor you because you're solid. You're not somebody who's freaking out every time they turn around. Men see women that way. Men see women as kind of neurotic, and just kind of all over the board, and always worried, and so and we see men. I see men that way. So it's kind of like once we ground, we can just accept individuals wherever they are. My granddaughter's 18, and that's just 3 generations almost. And
Right.
so to be able to understand her generation, I actually had to sit and be what she's being, listen to her music, talk to her about it, instead of going, oh my God, what are you doing? It's like, wow, what's that? I never heard that. So we if we really want relationships, we actually engage with the other person, because we already know who we are. If they want to know, they'll ask. And if they don't ask, we know a little bit about where they are, right? They're
Right.
not even capable of asking about you because it's still all about them. And you honor that, but that's not somebody you're going to be in a, close
You know
relationship.
what? I love that because you know what I said, even in the book I put, you need to understand that some people are just not partnership material.
Right.
And that's because of where they are.
Right.
Okay. If it is all about them, or if they have been divorced and they can't get over the last marriage, or so intent on with their children, they can't be there for you. So why be angry? It's
Right.
like, wow, that's great. That's who you are. I mean,
That's right.
friends, but however, another interesting thing you said, you must have a very wise son to say that to you.
Yeah. He is very wise. He is. He's
Right.
yeah.
Okay. No, that's really good. So I think this is really good. And this is food for thought for a lot of people. And I want to thank you. There's so much depth in what you said, so much truth, so much wisdom. And I really hope that everybody that watches this would take this to your heart, take it to your head, take it to your heart, because now we're moving into a lot of the Aquarian energy, okay? And
Mm-hmm.
this retrograde, we're a lot of big changes in the world, but it's like balancing left and right, brain, masculine and feminine, and head and heart and hera. So we become a whole person. And what I hear and what I see with you is you're whole, and you love yourself, and you have accomplished. You don't need anybody. You're not a vampire. You're not a parasite. You're just whole in your being. And your partner that you're with right now is whole in your being, and you can play. Okay.
Yeah.
Create this. You each bring so much to the relationship, and yet you're not gaga over it. It's just like it is evolving.
Right.
And even if you were to uncouple, you uncouple with honor and
Right.
and grace.
Yes. Yes.
This has been a great journey, and we have learned from each other.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And the other thing that I want to say about loving ourselves, because sometimes again that sounds selfish. Um, it's really uh, since everything is pretty much a quantum world, you know,
Right.
and it's pretty much energetics. Loving yourself really means getting kind of in tune with really the bigger self of who you are, like your whole energy system, right? And so as we balance that, that love of self then permeates out, right? And so even like during this COVID, and I'm sure that you probably do this too, because we're okay if we go to the store, if we do whatever, we don't have this that's the COVID reality, and it has my complete blessings. But when I meditate every day, I hold this light that it's kind of like we're not vampires. We're actually like these beacons that we just permeate light energy because we can, and because that's what we can bring. So many people ask me, like, what can we do? What can we do? I don't know what to do. You know, I don't know what to do. It's like, I don't even know what our future is right now. And I'm like, so be here now, because we don't know, and we're creating the future right now. So be here now and center and be in your light, you know, just be light. Don't buy into, or it's more like be the observer of what's going on and not the participant. If it's not necessary, it's not necessary for us to participate in CV right now. And the COVID, right? It's not, it is more necessary for us in this time of great transformation to like be in, like, every day, you know, do your work to be light from the inside out, and just, you know, let everything else go, because we can't change anything right now. We can't, and unless we change. We can't be, you know, it's like if we keep feeding the fire is going to keep growing. So it's like we pull back from the fire and just be the light, you know. And for some people it's like, well, you know, I don't know how that helps. It's like, oh my God, when in each situation you show up, you'll be light. That'll help everybody, right? Because you don't show up like all angered like everybody. You just show up as light. So yeah, so I was just going to say that, you know, in the bigger picture of loving self, it's really energetically coming to the higher frequency of self, or whatever one. I mean, people might want to vibrate in their lower frequency.
That's their choice.
Fine, it's all fine, you know. We may not hang out in the same space, but I have nothing wrong. Light and dark makes this 3D reality go along just fine, you know.
Right. And that's basically it. So it is, that's what I felt, is that we align with ourselves, we hold our light, we stand back and be the witness and an observer of ourselves, and of just knowing that at this particular point, it's just that what we can do with ourselves. Okay. And having a trust in I have a trust in a divine knowing, as it's going to be what it's going to be, but we need to hold our light and not be in fear, because fear, it's either love or fear. Okay, there's two, and right now there's been a lot of fear. Okay, and another thing I woke up the other night and I thought, I get it, why we've had to be in quarantine, because we've always been like this, like, so the codependent and this type of thing. Right. So with social distancing, it's really interesting. At first I was kind of a little upset, don't tell me, you know, blah, blah, blah. But then I was standing in the bank the other day and I was somewhere and I thought, this is really cool, because what it made us do, realize we needed to have distance. And so in order to have distance, we needed to have some kind of boundary, which is about loving self instead of, there is no boundary. And another thing, what the challenge was, that really a lot of people that live together or married or whatever, they have realized they can't stand each other. Right. Because they've been there. And so now it's like, how are they going to do this? Because they've really got to see each other in the space and to say, why am I really with somebody? So for me, the positive part of it was that I got to really spend time, and I actually went to my hairdresser this morning, and it was so funny because hairdressers are all about, like, they're really healers. They're forever working with people and whatever. And she said, it was really interesting. She said, it was a great time because she said, I didn't have to keep thinking about everybody else, even though she's a very spiritual person too. But she said, it really gave me a lot of time to see that I did have I had to have my boundary, because I get a little bit sucked in at times because
Mhm.
that's just the way it is. So I want to thank you for taking the time to do this, Darlene, and I really am excited. The next time we do it, people will know about your mission and your passion and everything. And I want to thank you for taking the time today to do it. And is there any last kind of message you'd like to say to everybody?
Yeah, sure. Take your time. Take your time in life. No hurry. It goes by so fast, and at the same time, everybody's in such a hurry that they don't really enjoy the moments and dive deep. Yes, the last thing is um, evolving in everyday life is really the spiritual experience. It's kind of every day is sacred. Every day we're evolving for our kind of like our eternal being. So enjoy the journey. I mean, and right now, I just want to say that whole, when we got quarantined and it said, go within, well, that's what it felt like. It's like everybody pause and go within. And I was like, well, how perfect life could do that for us. Everybody just pause and go within. And then again, people went within with people that they hadn't even seen for years, right? And then they're like, wow, I don't know you anymore. And then still it's about go within. Well, who am I then? Who am I now? And what do I want? And so I think that life is amazing in doing that. It looked bad, but it's really done so many great things, this pause for the cause. But again, I want to warn that as we go forward, it's going to get even more insane. So if you don't know who you are, you're going to be caught in the hurricane. You better do your work. Do your work.
Absolutely perfect. Thank you so much.
Blessings. Thank you so much. This was really fun. I like talking.